This is all about, as I say, social innovation, and I'm going to let my three panelists introduce themselves. So why don't we start here?
So I'm Boita, head of marketing at Pernod Ricard, looking after Absolute Vodka.
I'm going to let you go next.
Yeah.
I'm Renèe Elliott, the founder of Planet Organic, which we started 22 years ago, and more recently the co-founder of Beluga Bean, which is a business and life skills academy.
I'm Jenn Sander. I do global innovation for Burning Man. I would love to really quickly get a show of hands so I can see how many of you guys have actually been to a Burning Man event before. Okay.
Ooh, not many.
All right, not very many. Okay, so how many of you guys have heard of it before? Okay, a lot of you. And how many of you have never heard of Burning Man before? Okay, cool.
How many have actually thought about going to Burning Man?
I mean, oh, okay.
A lot of people.
That's awesome.
How many are too scared to go to Burning Man? Tell us a little bit about it. Oh, you've got a little video clip, I think.
Right, yeah. So just to provide a little context for all those hands that went up for those of you who haven't been. Burning Man is a pop-up city. It is all user-driven content. Nothing is bought or sold there, and everything is taken away afterwards by its participants with no trace, its participants and its volunteers. So the organization does literally nothing. It's pure user content. So let's show this little clip and give you guys some more context.
We arrived out at this vast plain. I took a stick and I drew a line on the ground. And I said, on the other side of this line, everything will be different. And everything has been different.
The place is an idea. That's so powerful and so alluring that people will go to the worst place in the world just to get a little taste of it.
It's very disconcerting in a 1 week period of time to realize that everything that you've done in your entire life could potentially be wrong.
I walked away from Burning Man going, I need to learn how to weld because I've got ideas. I still have a long ways to go.
Burning Man is a great venue to build giant stuff and blow it up.
Before anywhere, I think it's definitely a place to start, right? Or maybe it's
I was terrified. It was definitely Mad Max and scared the shit out of everybody there.
We'll go to Burning Man next year.
So it was a question of two different visions of what it should be.
Who the fuck do you think you are, playing God over who goes to Burning Man and who does not?
What kind of a moral position is that to be in?
Large section of the community is
We owe it to them not to be panned.
It's almost like we don't want to listen to what they're saying.
Everybody's so frazzled. We've been working on average 16-hour days. That's life out here.
Establish and adapt your communication strategies to have values.
You people here today are the people from this moment on that creates the framework and the cauldron that will cook their soul.
In order for us to survive on this planet, we have to engage thousands, millions of people. We have to do it. We're giving our lives to it. It's that important.
Your brand is first, and make sure that whatever you do from a social point of view is congruent with who
So you want to go for a ride?
Foremost, and then decide what social impact you're going to be making.
That must be quite challenging with a brand like your own, which is obviously a long-established brand. Perhaps more challenging than with a startup.
Yes, yeah, a lot more challenging than I would say with a startup. Although, you know, the brand was founded in 1879 by a guy called Lars Olsen Smith. At the time, when people were drinking vodka, they were drinking actually really, really bad vodka. It used to contain fusel oils, would you believe it? And so he created a new distillation process called continuous distillation, which is what we still use today. And so that actually made basically the purest vodka that was on the market, and hence why that vodka became so successful. So from a pure social innovation, making sure that people, if they were going to drink alcohol, they were drinking a quality alcohol that wasn't going to make them ill or kill them with fuel oils. Very much from the start, that's what the brand was about, and that kind of continuous innovation continues today, really, on the brand as well.
Yeah. Jenn?
Yeah, so I think in the case of Burning Man, we are all user-driven content and inherently a reflection of our core values, as you were saying. But for us, it's really important that our community is prototyping and building things and trying things. And one way to generate more content in a media strategy that allows for more evolution of the customer's interaction or the user's interaction with those values is actually prototyping and allowing as much of user-generated content as possible. So we see that our amateurs are learning from the professionals, and in this way it's creating more of a ripple effect of content that is constantly coming out that we can tell storytelling about.
And of course, Burning Man, you were telling me, has been going for how many years?
It's been going for 31 years now.
Right. And it's always followed exactly the same values, the same...
Yeah, and actually we have a zero media policy. So the zero media policy has to do with outreach. So at our events, if anyone's going to write about the experience, we expect them to be a full participant. And in this way, again, the story is in line with the values of the community.
Mm-hmm. And Renèe, your Pernod Organic has been going for how many years?
22 years this fall.
22 years too, and also it's always been the same social values.
We started out to do things differently, to do supermarketing in a different way, and we pioneered the organic concept in 1995. We were first in the market.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So moving on, and thinking specifically about innovation and innovation within your own businesses. To what extent are your processes informed by their potential social impact? In other words, I guess the whole development process throughout your organization, is that always at the front of your minds in terms of the innovation process, or does that sort of follow? What comes first, if you like, the product or?
Yeah. Well, I'll carry on because I'm sort of still talking. So it is about the DNA. Our values inform everything we do. We don't think about the processes and how they relate. We set a way of operating in the market. We said no artificial additives, no hydrogenated fat, organic where possible, best quality food, and that's across meat, fish, ambient grocery, fresh, everything. So everything we do reflects that. So we're always providing a better alternative, the best alternative, and also in terms of health and body care. So it's not just about what you're eating, it's about what you're putting on your skin, what you're brushing your teeth with, alternative therapies and remedies. So it's not, I'm going to go get antibiotics, I'm going to try a natural remedy that may solve the problem, not put a plaster on what's going on. So it informs everything we do and how we do business, and it's a very transparent, open conversation with the customer, because we're trying to do a better job. We're always asking, is there a better way? What's the best way? How can we serve our customers in our community? And that's about, best quality soil, best quality, healthy animals, healthy plants, healthy people, healthy planet. So it permeates through every aspect of the business. And that's founded on also relationships that are based on trust and respect, because every good relationship, whether it's your mother or your husband or your business partner, is based on trust and respect.
It's probably a relatively easy message to get across, right? Because it is such a simple message, and to get your customers to buy into that. Well, they know exactly what they're buying into, right?
And I know that question comes up a bit later, but we're operating in a sector where most of our customers are on the same page. We're in a very comfortable place. What we're constantly striving for, though, is to take it to a wider audience, a broader public, to try and create a more organic, a more healthy community, country, world. So we start with the people who know us and get us, and then we move out from there.
So, sticking with that, I know we're going to come on to that later, but actually while we're talking about it in terms of messaging, Burning Man, I guess, is very different, because you don't really have to get the message out there. You don't advertise, you don't market, correct if I'm wrong, it's all word of mouth. And I guess you have people... Do you have a limit on the number of people that come to Burning Man? Do you set a limit, or?
Right. So initially, Burning Man was an organic phenomenon. It happened organically. It wasn't until after about 12, 15 years that we created an organization around it. And actually, funny that you say that, it was about 2012 when we sold out for the first time. We were at capacity. There weren't enough tickets for everybody. And so that was when the organization decided to turn into a nonprofit, because we sort of thought, well, you know, the best thing that we can do now is incubate things that happen as a result of this experience. So the Bureau of Land Management in the state of Nevada has limited the growth of the event. But to answer your question from before, basically, so we see ourselves as a facilitation platform, and our users bring all the innovation. So as a result of that experience, quite often they bring that innovation back into the real world and create organic offshoots of some kind, whether they're other pop-up city events or they're, you know, beach cleanups or they're other radically aligned initiatives based on our principles. And so really what we're learning to do as a nonprofit is go out there and learn from those offshoots and figure out how we can do storytelling, how we can do seed funding, how we can do fiscal sponsorship in order to support the offshoots that we're seeing as a result of our events.
And those offshoots are Burning Man branded or?
No, so I mean, I should probably explain these values a little bit more. So our core values, they were a reflection of how our community had already become. They weren't something that we set out to create. So one lesson that I'd really like to share with you guys is make sure that you allow for flexibility and space within some of your missions, because that's how you can really, really connect with the ethos of the environment that you're working to. But so basically, these values were a reflection, and I think one of the most socially conscious and innovative things about these values is that some of them are geared towards the individual, and some of them are geared towards the collective. So ultimately, what it ends up doing is helping people really understand and see their role in what it means to make a more desirable world, and help them figure out what their role might be in creating the world they want to be a part of. So whether it is another Burning Man-like event, which must abide by all 10 principles, or it is just something born out of the ethos, we are seeking as a nonprofit to partner and affiliate with these causes.
And are all the offshoots also nonprofit, or?
No, they're all kinds of things. They're things from, you know, peacekeeping initiatives in Derry, Ireland, to you know, different organizations around participation and making and learning and DIY culture, to working with cities on creating more civic context for their citizens to come together and learn how to hack solutions.
Right. Now, Adam, you just told me before that you spent your honeymoon at Burning Man.
We did, yes.
Why?
Testing the marriage a week after we got married.
Oh, okay, fair. Good point.
We survived.
But what attracted you? Is it just intrigue or having heard about it?
Just through friends. We love going to festivals, and I think, you know, we both saw Burning Man as the kind of the ultimate festival.
Right.
A way to just disconnect. You know, there's no Wi-Fi. You know, it's kind of like one of those ones you take your photos and then you develop them later. It's that kind of vibe, and that's what really attracted us to us.
Really, no Wi-Fi?
No Wi-Fi, no.
Any phone signal?
No phone signal whatsoever. Just kept the phone in the bag.
Count me out. Forget it. Yeah. Right, let's move on. Where should we go now? Okay, so looking back on the history of industry, sustainability and business at scale have often been at odds. Which strategies do you find are key when building or rebuilding a business around sustainability? Kick off?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, from Absolute, as I said before, it kind of started with the founder, and that kind of continuous innovation has continued today, really. So the vodka is made in one source, we call it one source, so one location using one water source, using a particular radius. We pay our farmers more than more than any other farmers, because they adhere to such strict guidelines in terms of the way they farm and the kind of quality of produce that they commit. You know, we feed the kind of local cattle as well off the stillage from the actual distillery itself. And actually, the carbon dioxide that comes off is also used to make carbonated drinks. So we have, you know, very kind of closed loop cycle within the distillery, and it's actually carbon neutral. So, you know, from what the founder's principles was, you know, the saying that we have is unnecessarily good, or onödigt bra in Swedish. And we have that background of Sweden as a country. I think I read a stat the other day that Sweden's run out of rubbish to recycle, so they're importing rubbish into the country to help other countries with their recycling. So that backdrop for us as a Swedish brand has helped continue that continuous innovation from a process point of view as well.
Do your customers get that? Do you think you get the message through to your customers?
Well, our brand, our kind of brand mission is to kind of instigate a more open world, and sustainability is certainly one of those pillars. And actually, we've been doing this for the past 20 years. This is not something new, right. But we're finding ways to actually, encapsulate that in a marketing messaging and get that in a relevant way. So that's the kind of next challenge for us.
Cool. Renèe, do you want to add?
Well, it's not really a strategy for us. I think I've been pretty clear about that. It's who we are. We just, from day one, wanted to do the right thing. And it's because we have integrity. And Planet Organic was my baby. And it was a vision I had to change food retailing in the UK, take organic and health food mainstream. But my underlying mission was to promote health in the community. And that's the driver for me. I care about people's health very passionately. And not all the farmers and manufacturers and retailers do. So for me, it was just a way of being in the world. Not a strategy. And, we were up against the big boys, and we've done all right. And it's that very heartfelt driver that I think I have so much passion behind that has come out into the world, and we've been a success because it's me, and I get really excited, and I kind of jump up and down and go on about that and do. I was lobbying MPs against genetically modified food and fighting the organic fight and talking to farmers and just at every level. I'm a real campaigner as well. It's not just, I never set it up as a retail shop because I wanted to earn money. I wanted to do something that I loved that would make a difference in the world. So I could get to the end of my life and think, okay, I made a difference. I did a good thing.
How many outlets do you have?
7.
7. And they are primarily where?
London-based.
All London-based. Right. Okay. Any plans for big expansion?
Well, we'll keep going slowly. We've been, there's a lot of people here talking about business today. We've never been very well funded, so it's been a slow burn. And I ran it with my husband for years, and it was like a mom and pop business, which was really lovely. Mm-hmm. So, and that's been great. When we first started, we thought, well, we take over the world, but there are other people doing this, and there were lifestyle choices we made about how we spent time as a family, having kids, being together as a family, and having the business so that it wasn't stress and money and all that. We always say Planet is values-led and commercially driven, and that balance and tension is really important.
So it really has been organic growth.
Yes.
Sorry.
Bada boom.
Terrible. Jen, you want to add to that at all, or?
What was the question again? Sorry.
That's a good question. No, it was about... I've lost it. No, clearly you don't want to add to it. Let's talk about platforms, okay? Are there any particular platforms and channels that you've found most useful in getting your message across?
I think that it doesn't hurt to have a blog that's not afraid to address social issues, definitely. And I think also it's important to create opportunities for your audiences and stakeholders to learn from each other and have real-world connections. So through having a leadership conference or an unconference with your communities and allowing them to learn from each other and verbally discuss issues or changes and sentiments together is sometimes even transformative. I personally have started looking at the city as a little bit of a platform, so every opportunity to collaborate with the city and do things that are inclusive to new audiences and slight verticals and different diversity groups is always a great idea as well.
Mm-hmm.
Digital platforms for us, certainly from an employee engagement point of view, is definitely key. Everyone obviously has to declare that they work for us as a company. But we have so many great events and so many stories to tell. We have a hashtag called PR UK Life, which all the employees use because there are so many different moments of conviviality at the events that we run. Be that raising money for Stonewall, which was one of the partners we can talk about later in terms of like diversity and unconscious bias within the workplace, and we use those events for employees to kind of be our advocates and our voices for the company and get that kind of message out there.
Mm-hmm. Jen, anything to add on that? Oh, sorry, Renèe.
platforms for getting the word out?
For getting the message over, really.
Yeah, I'm not huge on social media. Planet does a bit, but I can't say we do it really well. For me, it's really about in-store. It's about training the team so that they can have an intelligent conversation with the customer. We send them all to an organic farm so they see the broader picture. They realize they're actually working in a field that's trying to do good and change the world. On-pack messaging is really important, although the packs are getting more and more crowded with all the free from and all that data. Also in-store messaging, although sometimes people don't read anything. So it's a combination of everything. But I think our strongest point has to be the team, a knowledgeable team. And of course, we attract people into the business who come with expertise and interest in certain areas, and then we foster that so that they are disseminating all of that information. I always say to them, look, you're my messengers on the shop floor. You know, it's great if you can engage and learn. And my dream always is that even at shop floor level, someone coming into Planet learns and grows and learns about whether it's nutrition or farming or GM or natural remedies, so that when they leave, even though we like people to stay, but when they leave, they're a different person. So it's really about bringing them on, and then they bring the customers and the community on.
Just going back to Burning Man for a second, and you know, I'm talking out of ignorance here as to the event itself. The programming for the festival, how is that determined? Is that all
user-generated?
It's all user-generated.
Yeah, we actually only provide porta potties. So everything that you saw in that entire video is created by artists or amateurs or makers or, you know, people experimenting. One of our core principles is participation, so we have no observers. So everybody participates, and whether they don't know how to do something or not, you'll pick up a shovel and try, and quite often that leads to, as I was saying before, a sort of more engaged citizenship in our temporary city, but also a more engaged perspective in you know, tapping into resources and finding networks that can support you to kind of getting into that entrepreneurial mindset or maker mindset or DIY mindset even when you get home. So we find that the social impact as a result of the experiences can be quite large.
So there is no agenda, there's no set format. People create their own
So
program?
The key founder of Burning Man, a man named Larry Harvey, who had no intention of this happening at all, he comes up with a bit of a theme every year. So he's sort of become a little bit of a philosophical kind of figure, but his themes are usually quite quirky, and it doesn't really inform very much, but some people loosely look at that as a context for the experience each year. So it's been things from like Cargo Cult to like Da Vinci's Workshop, which was last year, which was great. This year it's called Radical Ritual. So that's basically it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm definitely going to sign up for it. You should. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left. Where do you see social innovation going? Big question, the big question. 5 years' time, 10 years' time.
Well, I think it's the pioneering brands such as the two guys here that are really pushing other industries to make social a core part of what they do. I think putting social at the heart of your business is definitely the way forward. It's one of the things that, again, like I said, Absolute has done from kind of day one. The most recent campaign we've been working on is about LGBT rights and fighting for those rights, which we've done for the past 30 years and are very kind of working closely with the LGBT community. So I think, as we know, brands that put social innovation at the heart of their practices are growing 4 times faster than those that don't. We also know that millennials, 70% of millennials are willing to pay more for brands that have social innovation and have a socially conscious impact at the heart. So if you don't do it now, you're going to be missing out, and your brand equity and what your brand stands for won't be as strong.
Jenn?
I think I'd like to see more platforms for social innovation. I'd like to see more opportunities for brands to be born out of this ethos, and I think some of the best ways for that to happen is actually the kind of urban hackathon model where either large brands or the government will open up data and encourage entrepreneurs, citizens, engineers, whoever it might be, to compete to hack solutions, because in that way you end up having solutions that are more applicable and inherently more socially aligned with the values of the people around them. And I think it also creates a lot of opportunity for the larger companies like the Ciscos, the Siemens, the IBMs to come in and fund some of that innovation and bring it back into their business models, as well as creating more small and medium enterprises that are kind of thinking about this kind of social impact.
Okay. Renèe?
Well, it's a different world than when I started Planet. And it certainly wasn't cool then to talk about social innovation or values, and we kept kind of quiet about it. When I was on stage then, it was talking about why organic, what is organic, what's wrong with the way we're farming now, and it was trying to make a public aware of what was actually happening in farming and how to do things differently. So I love how the world is changing, because now it's cool, and they're really amazing people doing incredible things around social innovation. There are funds and events, and it's just fantastic. I don't like the greenwashing that goes on. Never have. The supermarkets started taking artificial ingredients out of their products and talking about how they cared about the farmers. And I know there's some element of truth, but to do that for the sake of sales, I just think you will be found out. One of the questions that was on the panel was, how do you not be accused of being disingenuous around this? Well, don't be disingenuous. Make it a value, or don't shout it from the rooftops. But I do love this momentum that I feel is gathering around social innovation, and I hope and believe that this is the beginning of the world really changing and becoming a better place because of the force of all of the people behind it who believe this passionately.